tuned in to this week's episode of Tribal Research Specialists, the podcast. A podcast about tribal people, our communities, and discussions on research traditions. We aim to uncover the true meaning of research methodological approaches that are currently operating in tribal life, with implications for tribal communities and avenues for knowledge production. All right. Who do you think that is singing there?
Man, I don't know. That's a killer tune, no?
It is. No, yeah, that's a good one. And I'm wondering if you know. Now, I'm going to give you a hint. It's local.
Montana local or Flathead local or what?
Montana local. Montana local. Now, I'll age it a little bit for you so maybe you can hone in on it. It's probably from the 70s.
Would I know?
I don't know.
Yes,
You might.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, how old were you in the 70s?
0.
But you were live in the 80s, and you know some of the legends from the 80s.
Is that not Bill Baker? Oh, that's North Dakota, man.
Yeah, we're Montana. So this comes from this collection of reel-to-reels I have. I counted them up. I have 56 reel-to-reels in this collection, spanning from about 1950 all the way up to the late 1970s.
Well, let's let our guest here take a stab at it. Does he know who that was? Let's welcome Ben Pease to the show.
We'll insert some applause. Yeah.
Hello. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and good night. I'll see you later.
He's out. He's out.
Hey,
He's out.
Talk, yeah.
I don't know who it was.
All right.
I literally have no idea who it was.
No clue.
My only guess would be, I don't know, kind of high pitch, high tone, almost like a Clayton Mountain Pocket from the Crow, but that's not even a Crow song. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Clayton sung high. He's a real high singer.
Yeah. So this was the legendary Pat Kennedy.
Oh, I knew Pat. I knew him.
Legendary Pat Kennedy. Yeah. Yeah, man.
In a hand drum contest.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Well, so here's the kicker to that, though.
Okay.
He is actually not from Montana.
Right.
He's from, I think Saskatchewan, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe
like Red Pheasant or something, Mosquito Reserve or something.
Yeah.
But then he married a Blackfeet woman in Browning.
Mm-hmm. And
then that's kind of where he made his name. But I think he was already a pretty good singer before he moved over to Montana.
I'm sure. Yeah, this is one of the few songs, on this one of these reel-to-reels I have that was identified as the singer. And when you hear it, and if you know kind of his style of singing, mostly his songs, a lot of his songs are still persist today. Really good composed songs. And that one,
he's an upbeat composer. His song style wasn't like somber tunes,
Yeah. And so that one I hadn't heard. Maybe I heard that song once before in my life, sung live maybe, and I wasn't too sure, but I'm sure there's some people listening that hear that and recognize it and are like, oh yeah, that's that old Pat Kennedy tune. And if not, man, it's a good one. It's a really good one.
I think
but you know what?
To bring that back.
Yeah. You know what? I think one of the important things about this, especially Pat Kennedy, he was a a lot of people think of singing and as a, as a form of art, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of confused about this idea of art and Native people. My confusion comes in.
Luckily I brought a feller today.
Yeah.
That probably could help us out.
We prefaced him with a short introduction that probably needs a little more.
Yeah, we don't do that though, man. We don't really.
No, we
do
don't.
That, like...
Nah, that's This ain't
guys,
this ain't a high school.
Where's the land acknowledgement here?
No, this
I've been waiting for that the whole time. Acknowledging your ancestors.
Well, the land I'm sitting on, I purchased. So
it's in fee status. So I'll acknowledge the state of Montana to which I pay my taxes.
I literally thought you guys would have like a form. There was a land acknowledgement,
like a proclamation.
Yeah. Come on, get on the ball, guys.
I know we got to get trendy.
Scroll.
We got to get trendy.
No,
that'll get you some points there.
Might get a few more reviews.
That's the coolness factor, isn't it? Isn't that the contemporary indigenous cool factor?
You follow the trends.
You're right, man.
It is that rhetoric.
Since you brought it up, Ben, what are some of the trends you've been noticing? I mean, of course, land acknowledgements. What's another like cool, trendy Indian thing?
Oh man, most definitely the Indian hat, the Indian red hat. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, we put feathers and beads on everything, and most people around the world, as I've traveled, they think natives are just beads and feathers, and headdresses and moccasins, rock your mocks. It was November. Did you guys wear moccasins all month?
No.
It's a big negative. I
the
wear
hardest of negatives.
The hardest of negatives. I would have figured, Aaron, by now that King Rope's hat would have been adorned with a beautiful spotted eagle tail feather there.
No, like there used to be a guy named wore a big plume in his hat all the time. What was his name? God dang it. I forget now. But
that's okay.
It was a ball cap is what I'm talking about. He wore a big plume in his hat, but it was a ball cap. It wasn't like a
Did he wear it
hat.
Like on top? Like
like
to the little button on top or what?
Ben and I are fairly close in age, so we came from a time in Crow where like denim jackets were kind of cool and like ribbon shirts were hot and what else was there? Chevy Blazers.
What?
The car. You don't remember Chevy Blazer?
The car?
Ben, did you guys ever own a Chevy Blazer?
Oh, I thought you're talking about a piece of clothing.
We owned a minivan, a little minivan that can, we called it.
The can?
Not a Blazer.
Not the Blazer.
There was
Blazer. No, you're right. The
everywhere.
Chevy Blazer was popular, ain't it?
Yeah, it was everywhere, man.
Wasn't there like a Blazer 2 that was like a little mini version of a Blazer?
Yeah, there was.
There's one driving around in Crow right now with no windows. Just zero windows. No it's 3 wheels.
It's solar powered.
Solar powered.
All right.
Yeah, definitely those denim jackets are getting popular, right? I mean, pan-Indianisms, we're sort of expected of these things. We're imposed of these things, and if you don't adhere, I suppose you're not as cool. You don't carry that coolness factor. So definitely, I agree there. Ribbon shirts and ribbon skirts, like you said.
So in the episode in the past, I said what women are going through right now, Indian ladies going through right now with the ribbon skirt, is what young Indian boys were going through in the 80s and early 90s, maybe the late 70s. But the ribbon shirt, I hated wearing the ribbon shirt.
It didn't fit exactly right. It's kind of breezy.
Yeah.
Sometimes those old threads would stick and scratch your back a little bit.
Everyone knew that one guy that wore his ribbon shirt but never washed it, and forever.
Oh
man.
Oh yeah.
It's like mustard stains all down the front. ketchup.
Mustard from the summer lunch program.
I think in the same way, if you don't like embrace these things, like I said, you're not as cool. But then I've seen a lot of other people use things like ribbon skirts and ribbon shirts and res hats and that indigenous aesthetic to sort of push people away or say that, hey, look at how good I look, But
yeah,
it's like I look more Indian than you. I'm playing the part, so therefore I am more Indian. My knowledge is above yours. It's valued more. It weighs more, and I think that's us. It goes along the same lines as like infighting and things like that. I think it's dividing us. But then I guess there's conversations around. To what point do we as indigenous people, native people, or our tribally specific people like Apsáalooke or something like that, to what point does our aesthetic become a greater part of the visual language within our communities, within the greater mainstream? So, I mean, there's definitely conversations around that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's an important one, that you see a lot, and especially that thing you're talking about using identity or knowledge as a commodity to elevate yourself above someone else. I don't know why that happens. I don't know why a tribe of people would want to be above someone else in their own tribe. It's really odd. It doesn't align really with the values, and maybe it's just humanness, maybe it's just the human flaw. But I think our the old timers had a way of putting that kind of behavior in check, so it didn't grow. I know there's
You're talking about like the toxic tribalisms that are existing today within our communities and our communities within institutions, even.
Yeah, for sure. It was like there's a story here during a certain time period where there started to be an excess of giving. People were trying to outdo each other, give more, and then it became this really contentious time period of this over giving, and I think the chiefs at that time then kind of banned it, said, okay, no more, we can't do this, it's getting carried away, because everybody's just trying to show off and try to give more than the last person, when that really wasn't the intent, I think, of that thing they were doing. But
yeah, most definitely. I mean, maybe I've sort of seen things like that from where Aaron and I grew up, with giveaways and with weddings and all sorts of things, even buying cultural rights or giving them away. Sort of, is that us absorbing the culture of accumulation in which we live? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I think if you look at our the state we're in as a whole, there's a lot of missing pieces, and we've discussed these some of these things in depth. And one of the challenges then is to say, how do we put that in the hands of a community of people to try to fix? What are some of the answers? And a lot of times, just like addictions, our tribal health systems, they try to find remedies to the drug problems and alcohol problems, but largely they're relying on a non-native approach. They'll try to stick a little bit of Indianness in it. They'll have maybe a counseling room with a Pendleton or a buffalo skull.
Sandine, are you saying something that's totally controversial here? Are you saying that our institutions can have addictions as well?
I think so, but I'm trying to say it really nicely in a way that is constructive, like maybe take that, take it as room for change and growth, and, so I don't know, I don't know if you how much of that you experience in your profession, the things that you do. I mean, what do you see as some of the strengths that you can see that need to grow versus the ugliness that I think we all can speak about? But what are some of the things that you see as a real positive in the work you do that we can foster in our communities?
I definitely feel like we as indigenous creatives, because we're not just artists, right? We're not just makers. We're not just painters or sculptors or weavers. We are creatives, right? We're creatives with our minds. We're creative with our words, with our presence within our families and communities. We have a presence within various social and nonprofit organizations. We be creative everywhere we are. Even you guys as researchers, you guys find creative ways of compiling information and dispersing that information. Because, well, like as an artist, I'm speaking for what I know, but from what I see from you guys are in a lot of ways setting precedents for those generations to come, right? Just like our grandmothers and grandfathers set precedents for us, they were able to ask these questions that we're able to make more complex and more pertaining to our existence in this place. But I think one of the important things that we can do as creatives is focus on the positivity that comes out of our communities, not just the bad things like drugs and alcohol, not just the MMIP pandemic it's confronting our communities everywhere. Not just focusing on broken treaties, those, not just focusing on the commonalities in Indian 101, because I think that if we focus too long on Indian 101 and the subjects surrounding that, our thoughts aren't able to develop, they're not able to further, they're not able to steep, and be more flavorful and deep and really affect us in the long term. And so, I guess as artists and creatives, we have to think about our legacy too, and I heard from Aaron, we had a talk a while back. He was talking about how crows know legacy like a friend. We've talked about legacy for years and years, for millennia, generations, and thinking about what legacy means to our children in 100 years, if human kind is still around. What we're doing as information hoarders and distributors, what is that going to mean to them? How is our data used within our communities? How is it adulterated by other companies and other organizations, other entities like the government? How are death rates, especially confronting a global pandemic? How are those things the numbers of those, how are those going to affect us, and how can that data be sold and bought? And so I think we need to think more deep about what we're saying and what we're doing and how we present ourselves, not just for the outside people, not just for the Western imposition of culture, because when I walk around, I'm definitely in culture shock, say like in Billings, at Shields, I'm in culture shock because I feel like everybody's looking at me, everybody's looking at my two young boys with long braids, everybody's looking at my wife, my partner, sexualizing her, romanticizing her. But maybe those are some of those cultural impositions that I put upon myself. I don't know. But I'm in the weeds. I'm in a hole. Call me Alice down the rabbit hole here.
Boy, yeah.
You weren't in the weeds, man.
Well, I sit at these easels back here, and I don't have anybody to talk to in the studio. It's a lonely place. I have bananas. I have my headphones, but that's about it.
Maybe you should get a parrot. Get a parrot.
Not even a real one. Get one of those mechanical ones. That just repeat everything you say.
Get that. Bring that fish back. Bring the fish back.
The fish. Yeah.
He sings too.
What does he sing?
Oh man,
something. Yeah.
Entertainment and philosophy there.
Yeah. So what kind of music you listen to while you do your art? What inspires you? I know that's a dumb question, man.
Aaron, quit being dumb.
I know. This was
Like,
it just was all deep talking about cultural
wah.
impositions. What kind of music you listen to?
Well, I'm curious because this is what I see when I
All
look
right.
at Ben's art. And I will admit I'm very critical of Indian people in art. In fact, some might call me a downer, you know.
Debbie.
Yeah.
But,
Debbie.
a Debbie Downer,
Debbie
a
Downer.
Dion Downer,
Deb Bryn.
But Ben's art, I don't criticize it, man. I like it. I'm a fan. So I want to know, there's something different about it. When I look at other native people's art, and sometimes I think Indians, when we give compliments to one person, people take that as a diss to everybody else. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there seems to be something different about your art, Ben. So I'm trying to tease out of you some of those. What are those things? Is it music? What is it that separates it?
Yeah.
Thank you for the coercion. And the tickle.
Well, that was meant to be a compliment, not a coercion.
No, I'm playing. I understand.
The tickle. That was a
tickled the Deb.
That should be a shirt. Call this episode "Thanks for the Tickle."
Okay. I'm getting butterflies.
Yeah. Get tickled by Ben.
I just turned off. I said, "Hey Siri, stop." Oh, she might listen, but I was playing Tupac. I was listening to Dear Mama. I was listening to Apple Music's Tupac station. It was just rolling. But before that, I was listening to Ludovico Einaudi. Before that, I was listening to everywhere. It's literally everywhere. I was listening to British hip hop the other day, classic rock. You're as cold as ice.
What is music? Is music something that kind of fills the air and kind of just gets the juices flowing, or do you think it actually has an effect on how your art turns out?
Actually, I don't usually listen to music when I work. I'm usually in complete silence, or I'm listening to a book or a podcast, and your podcast being one of those. So put that in your hat. It's really not something that influences the work that I'm making, because I don't know. I think it's just the work that comes from not only my hand, but all the way from my nose back behind my eyes there. Obviously, I'm influenced by culture, right? There's an obvious influence there. And I paint a lot of different things, but one of the things that I paint most are portraits, right? Portraiture of our people from a historical sense. So like we were talking before the podcast, I was talking about those leaders and those head people from the transition era, and what I think and what I term it to be the era of transition and of the Crow tribe. People like Plenty-Coup and Two Leggins and Pretty Eagle and Medicine Crow. I've got a Medicine Crow painting over here right now, just right next to me. And so I start to think about, why am I painting my culture? What are these questions that arise that really inspire me or make me do it? And why do I, as an artist, why do I have to paint my culture? Why do I have to paint Indians, and I don't have a real answer for that. A lot of times I'm just going against Western culture and Western art in itself. For example, I made a painting last year. It was titled Indians on Horses in Their Natural Habitat. And this painting was an oil painting, a traditional oil painting, in a nice, large, gold-gilded, gaudy frame, right? That was antique. And I bought the painting and the frame at an antique store, right? And this painting was made by a Western artist, whose name I won't shout out right now, but it seemed for his whole career he painted Indians, natives, portraits, and he made a living off of it, right? And he profited off of that. for his whole career, it seemed like. And so I bought one of his paintings, and I made my own painting on his painting. But all I did was I painted letters, English letters, and it said Indians on horses in their natural habitat. Because as I go to these Western art shows at these Western art galleries and expositions and exhibitions and things like that, that's what I see. Non-native Western artists painting Indians in their natural habitat, right? Indians on horses in the river, Indians on horses by the cliff, you know, Indians on horses in the forest, you know, and etc. So on and so forth.
Bucks, Indian bucks.
And it just keeps going. So sometimes it's something that I paint because it's inspired by my family. I do collaboration with my grandmother, who's been one of the most active photographers on the Crow Indian Reservation for the last 65 years. And she's now 96.
And
so
an avid reel-to-reel recorder, right? Doesn't she have a whole bunch of reel-to-reels?
She has some reel-to-reels, and she has a whole closet full of boxes of slides that haven't been printed. And so one of my big projects for this coming year is to scan all those, and really looking forward to what's going to come out of those, because she spent a lot of time with these elders, right? Or these people that we say are elders, those were her contemporaries, and she spent a lot of time with her elders and my grandfather's elders. So, and then my work is obviously inspired by, I don't even know a term for it, but contemporary indigeneity, I guess is a good word for that. Hey, I heard a guy, he trademarked indigeneity, and he bought the domain name. Can you do that? Yeah, I think so.
He did. Yeah, you do whatever you want, man.
I guess. Yeah. And so, could you, in fact, trademark elk teeth?
I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing right now.
Aaron, I've got a question for you.
Where this is going. This is a good one. Yeah, I contemplated bringing this up. Yeah, and so it goes along with something interesting that you said. You know, and I think, you know, and Indians are all in a way some form of artist. I'm convinced of it. You know, in whatever manner it is. But because I think, and then I know a lot of humans, we use different parts of our brain. You know, but I think that that artistic side of us allows us to express things that maybe you know, Western civilization does not think of anymore. You know, like expressing research artistically. That's something that we contemplate a lot when we're thinking of how to approach a research angle. But it's this. Okay, so it's this. You said something about, you know, this state we're in. You know, things have to look Indian. And in a way, you know, we're trying to reach back into the past and represent some portion of ourselves from a period that's not today, in a way. And, you know, so we've gone through all these different stages of advancement or change, I guess you could say. You know, some tribes had to migrate to certain places and adapt to the environment. Then the horse came, and then the gun, you know, and then the reservation period, self-determination. And so my big question is, you know, what's next for us? What do we have that's next? And I think you spoke to that just briefly just now when you said that idea. You know, we're kind of at this really weird transition where now we're trying to take ownership of things, but maybe in the wrong way, And that's where I try to evaluate. Just like Aaron said, try to evaluate art and say, well, what is the point? You know, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to say? What does this say about me, about us? So all of our actions and this idea of copywriting parts of our culture so that it can be ours. Yeah.
Well, Western ideology as an institution, right? I talked about earlier is it's imposing upon us certain ideas and beliefs. And one of those, I think, to be a romanticization of our own people. We look back at the old ones and we romanticize them. We look back and we want to be in that time. You know, we want to sing those songs. We want to have the knowledge that they had because we place value there. We put weight on that, right? And I think it like you were just saying, we try to find ways to own our culture. And today in 2020, we live in a goddamn future. Excuse my Apsáalooke, but we live in a goddamn future, you know? And it's quite literally an age of data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're trying to think about things like copywriting. We're trying to think about things like trademarking. And we're trying to protect our knowledge, our aesthetic, our creativity. We're trying to put up a wall to keep people away due to cultural boundaries, you know, due to cultural mannerisms, I think. We're trying to protect ourselves, right? But is it right, if we're thinking about intellectual property in a digital age, to compare that to cultural property and cultural copyright? If there ever was a thing, I would advocate for it. But that is a subject that lives in the weeds, you know. I think in a past podcast, Aaron said it's trying to see the deer in the forest, right? Is that what you said, Aaron?
I probably did. I forgive me. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I went black.
We'll say he
blacked
said that.
out. I don't remember. So we're trying to protect this information, just like you guys are as researchers and educators, right? You have ways, and you're trying to find new ways of finding information, cataloging it, dispersing it, and protecting it. Just as I'm trying to do as an artist, and a lot of artists call themselves storytellers, right? And that's hit or miss for a lot of different artists and a lot of different creatives. But what are we supposed to do if we don't follow the I guess the methodologies that are set out in front of us in copywriting our artwork, you know, so that companies across the US and Canada and even into China can't copy and paste your image and put it on a plush blanket that you then buy it at a powwow, you know, the long way around. And I've seen that happen to my friends.
Oh, really?
I don't know, man.
You've seen that happen. You've seen that happen. Their artwork end up
who are you talking
on a plushie sold outside the road by a gas station.
Right.
Yeah, right next to the Trump 2020 hats.
Right, on those aluminum frames and stuff.
Yeah. All
but that's actually happened to a lot of my friends. A lot of I would call them my colleagues. Their work has been stolen straight off of their website, straight off of Facebook. And I don't know if you would use the word appropriated, but it was stolen and changed its use, you know?
So since you brought it up, one of the ways to protect stolen materials is to copyright it, trademark it, and it allows for some protections of it. And since you brought it up, I mean, the elk teeth print was copyrighted. So where does I'm not saying like that was wrong. I'm not saying it was right. I'm just saying, where does that end and where does that begin? Because, for example, let's just to be safe, we'll attack something you did, like some work maybe you did. Well, you
whoa.
no, I'm saying like you've painted pictures of Crow Indians, right?
Yeah.
What's the most recent one? I think a two-leggeds one, right, or something.
I have one on the easel right now. It's of Medicine Crow.
So Medicine Crow.
During delegation.
So in a sense, I mean, in terms of cultural copyright, like, is that something you get permission from the family to say, hey, can I paint a picture of Medicine Crow? You know what I mean? Like I guess I'm just broaching the question of, that's an individual. What we're actually talking about is a cultural component. Like an elk tooth is something not only crows use, but so many tribes used it to show status. And I mean, I guess crows kind of made it popular contemporary, but there's evidence that a lot of tribes use them. So,
right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is a subject I think that hasn't really ever been discussed at a high level. And I'm not saying I'm going to be able to discuss it at that high level. But this is something that we're trying to learn. And like I said earlier, we're trying to build precedents. And so finding ways to paint pictures of our ancestors, our past leaders, it's a touchy subject because, well, for example, I did a mural in Lodgegrass, right? Lodgegrass, Montana. in the wake of a triple homicide. It was a police-involved killing, influenced by drugs and alcohol, and the community was hurting, right? And so I collaborated with 2 different organizations, and we put this mural up of the late Dr. Joe Medicine Crow, Grandpa Joe. You know, I grew up around him. You know, I have a lot of memories, have a lot of information that he shared with me and my family, and we put the mural up, and we did what is, I think I term as a community collaboration. So we used his likeness, his image on the wall, and then people from the community came and they put their handprints and they helped me paint this whole mural, sort of thinking about artwork as healing, right?
Yeah.
And at the bottom, that we use the tagline "resilient," because we try to convey the sense that we're resilient people, that we can bounce back. And we had feeds pre-COVID. You know, we had a feed, we had a storytelling, we had a non-denominational prayer circle for anybody who wanted to come pray or just even hear prayers, you know, because the people were scared and people were hurting. But after the fact, a young lady who I guess I won't call out, she's an artist of the Medicine Crow family. She reached out to me and she said that I was using his likeness for profit, for fame, for the gain of fame. When something like that thought had never crossed my mind. But painting a mural with the community is a lot different than painting a portrait of two Legans, something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And I have asked families for permission. But then again, maybe somebody else in the family doesn't really agree, you know, and are they wrong? I don't think so. There's a lot there for me anyways. I try to read as much as I can. I try to talk to as many different people as I can, but we're losing people, right? Just like you guys know, both of your communities, respective communities, we're losing people. We've just lost 5 more of our knowledge keepers just recently, and from where Aaron and I are from. And it's tough, you know?
Yeah.
But if we are thinking about intellectual property as cultural property and protecting that in more of a mainstream viewfinder, I guess, because if you're exposing your work and your imagery that you create to a broad audience, there's obviously going to be more chance for it to be taken and stolen and misused and appropriated, right? And so how do you protect that in a world full of legal battles, right?
Yeah.
You have to follow the methods that were laid out, right, in a legal standpoint.
So do you think that was the intent? The intent wasn't to exclude Native people, but really to protect it from non-Native people?
I can't say if that was, but
I want you to.
I would hope that to be, you know.
I want you to. I want you to.
That's pretty interesting, you know. Yeah. What, you know, it comes down to also like information, you know. If somebody shares something with you, when does it become your knowledge? You know, we're at that point now where we want to individualize knowledge, you know, and it's like likeness of things, you know, the same way with the pattern of a design, you know. At what point do Indians say, okay, this is mine now, rather than this is ours, and I'm gonna copyright it as mine. And I think that, yeah, it's just it's kind of a tough one, because we can run into that too with you know, things like ecological knowledge. You know, if one of my relatives tells me something and I embody that and embrace that knowledge, and, you know, does it become mine, or am I just a holder of that knowledge? At what point, when I have to maybe perhaps publish something about that, do I have to always attribute that back to some person or something, or when does it just become a common knowledge that I hold as not as my own, but as from my people?
Most definitely. Well, one of the things that I'm scared of, I'm terrified, you know, I'm statuesque thinking about this, you know. I'm thinking about how to try to stay away from becoming a cultural profiteer. And maybe that's another one of those Western impositions coming from my insecurities, you know, the things that I don't know. Maybe I'm scared of the unknown. Maybe it's, I don't feel like my knowledge is good enough, but, you know, we have to believe in ourselves and believe that our knowledge is valuable as individuals, as educators, as speakers, as creative people.
Yeah.
But we have to also recognize the way that culture evolves, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would say that our culture is dying, right? We're losing our language, you know, we're losing our songs, our designs, you know, things like that. We're losing our ceremonies. But in a lot of ways, it is dying. That knowledge is leaving us. But in a lot of other ways, it's evolving and changing, because I see culture as an organism. And what does evolution evoke? What does that relate to, right? It relates to an organism as it moves and melds, right? Changes. Our cultures are always in flux, and our cultural protocols and mannerisms, they're really, really individualized, and those change all the time too. You know, when did tobacco move to marbles, right? When did traditional tobacco change into what's that pack? I had a pack here. I was doing those natural cigarettes. Oh, here it is.
Oh,
Natural American Spirit. American Spirits.
Yeah.
I was doing a still life of these. When did it change to give these out? And then here, real sacred, like, here, I'll give you a prayer, you know, things like that. You know, here's a blessing for you. It also has a filter on it to protect your lungs, you know.
Yeah. Not only am I praying for you, but I'm watching out for you.
Looking out for you.
Yeah, with this filter.
These things change, right? I mean, and what are they going to look like in 50 to 100 years, even more than that, you know?
That's
We're
the
on a
interesting
podcast
thing.
talking about culture when we should be sitting in a teepee by a fire, you know? What the hell's the matter with you guys? But look behind me, guys. I mean, we're on Zoom and you guys have camera on me, but I'm sitting in front of 2 oil paintings, right? And what is oil painting in the history of the West? What is it?
Oh no! What are you getting?
Got me there.
What are you getting at?
I thought I'd stretch you guys'
Charles Russell.
You guys' Charles Russell, yeah. And what did he do? What did he paint?
Well, yeah, he's painting Indians and horses,
cows and cowboys. Habitat. But he had complex relationships with tribal people, right? Tribal individuals.
Yeah.
And but I think that oil painting has been one of those cornerstones of Western society, you know, one of those marketing tools that is sort of advanced with fire, you know. We think about paintings of Bierstadt and Charles Russell, you know, we think of all kinds of these Western painters that didn't always exactly tell the truth. And yet it was marketed like it was the truth. You know, this is a uninhabited land that is yours, prime for the taking, right? Come and take this land. You know, there's nothing here. There's nobody that lives here but the animals and the land. And ultimately natives at that time of westward expansion, I feel like people thought natives were even under the animals, even under the land. Not even tenants of it, you know. Ultimately subservient and less human than non-native peoples. Than the newcomers, right? The westward expanders, I'll say. Is that a new term?
Westward expanders?
Yeah. It's kind of elementary and rudimentary term, but these, I don't know.
Fuzz these Western expanders, man.
They just do that, and then they do.
Well, hey, let's take a little breather here for a second, and then we'll get back into it, because I have a
smoke. Have you got them?
Questions? Yeah, smoke your American spirits. Make sure you sit on the floor on a blanket though when you do that. and face the west. Oh no, the east. Face the east.
Face the east, or face the sun as it goes across the sky.
Face the sun.
Yeah,
yes.
go with it. Go with it.
Go with
it. Yeah.
Face the Elon Musk satellites.
Oh.
All right, so we've got this gallery again, WYLD, Wild Gallery in Austin, Texas. And again, now this guy features some exclusive art created by some well-known Native American artists, which include some original and one-of-a-kind artwork. But there's also other items like prints and posters. And a lot of this stuff is pretty reasonably priced. And, in this online shopping world, you can easily get any of these items shipped out to you. It'd be good. It'd make some great Christmas presents. And, it just helps out the artists that the Wild Gallery features. And, art is something that I think we all need in our lives, as we've discussed here and we've just discussed throughout our podcast. So go on over to wyld.gallery, to the Wild Gallery there in Austin, Texas, and maybe you can find something, nice little Christmas present for your loved ones. But yeah, man, think about going out and visiting that website. All right, that was another tune that comes off of this unknown reel to reel. I think it's there was marked with some folks that were singing on there. Last name of let's see if I can remember. I think there was a No Runner on there. There was a Bourne, maybe a Larry Bourne.
Jason Bourne?
Matt Damon.
Not Matt Damon.
Matt Damon
might be a time traveler. I don't know. But I'll throw this up in the show notes, what was listed on there. But I would hope somebody listening would know and say, oh yeah, that's I know where that song comes from. But yeah, one of the important things that we're I guess we're all kind of engaged in at certain points in our lives, and I guess as we get older, we start thinking about it more. And in English, they call it the philosophy of a people. We start contemplating things, morality, and what's right, what's wrong, kind of what are these stories we hear? How do they shape what we do and how we know things, or our ceremonial ways? We start thinking deeply about all those things. And I'm curious, because I know art has a different way of expressing all these kind of things that we try to capture in the English language. But I really think that symbolism and symbology can really capture a lot of the way that Indians think and the way we believe better than even a multi-volume book could. So I'm wondering, the work that you do as an artist, as a creator of things, how do you see that? How do you see your work advancing kind of the way we think, kind of the way we operate, really in this kind of changing world that we're experiencing?
Well, that's a big question, and I'm not prepared to answer it because I just make the paintings. You know?
That's the coolest response.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll just paint it.
That brings
But then go ahead, Aaron.
well, I was gonna say that might bring up a good point though. Are we just simply overthinking this stuff too?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like someone like pop. I like pop. People ask me, why you still drink pop? The only answer is because it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like it.
It makes me feel like a champion.
Yeah, man, I love it. It's good. Now,
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on to something cool.
The classic example of that, that overthinking is that scene in Dances with Wolves, when Kicking Bird is sitting in the field of grass, and they got him really contemplating this pensive look on his face, and he's
The
rubbing his
1,000-mile
hand.
look.
Yeah. The John Stiffarm 1,000-mile look. And he's rubbing the grass, like, what is he doing? What is that all about, And that's that romanticism, that we think about. And we always have to be cautious of that, I guess. At least I am. I want to know.
You have to be.
Yeah.
I think
Are we the only group of people that have to worry about that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We're
as an Indian artist,
own...
as a native artist, when I go to certain art shows, I literally have to show them my pedigree. Like a horse entering into a race, or a dog,
Yeah.
I mean, blood quantum, that's one of the things that was designed to eventually divide us, right?
Yeah.
But as a secondary culture learner, I think that in my awakening, let's take this back in time here.
All right.
My awakening, I guess my coming to wasn't until my wife and I decided to build a family, and I left my senior year of football in North Dakota, right? And I came to Bozeman, Montana. I went to Bozeman, Montana to continue my art degree, right? And so I didn't know anything really about tribal jurisdictions. I didn't know anything about federal Indian law. I didn't know anything about anything. I was just a res boy who went to college and was a partier, and a football player, a college jock. And I had to learn these things. I had to learn about racism. I had to learn about colonization and assimilation. And I didn't know it was any different from what I had heard from my family, my aunts, my uncles, my grandpas, my grandmas. And I think personally as an artist, I developed this, I said earlier, like this pan-Indigenous rhetoric that is just repeated, and repeated and repeated. And it echoes everywhere in our communities. And because I saw a cool factor there, I wanted to replicate that, And really, I guess there was pressure to be native, and almost to a detriment, pressure to be more native than I actually had grown up to be, more pan-Indigenous than I had actually grown up to be, than I'd seen in my community, outside of sweat, outside of Sundance, outside of prayer, outside of helping people go fast, and outside of being on the land, or outside of running on the dirt roads, hooky bobbing at Pro Fair, And once I started learning that in Bozeman, I started to view my people differently, right? Because of Bozeman's probably 90, 98, 99% white, right? And my paintings were selling, There's a chief with a headdress on, right? Sell, paint it, sell it, paint it, sell it, paint it, sell it, continuous. It's cyclical. And I started to realize, I think what I was doing, I was only perpetuating those modes and methods. And I felt bad about it. And I feel bad about it. But as an artist, you grow, right? As somebody with ideas, ultimately in time, your ideas are able to develop, like a photograph in a dark room. You give it time, it only gets better, right? You take the right processes, right steps, they get better. They get more contextualized, they get deeper, And so I think that's what's sort of happening with my work. At least I hope it's happening. I hope it's developing to where I can be proud of it in 10 years, because right now I look back on my work 10 years ago. That's when I basically first started painting. I'm so embarrassed by that work, you know. It makes me cringe, you know. The hell was I thinking? You know, where was my head? I was so simple, you know. But in 10 years, I hope I'm not like that, but I probably will be, you know. So I think because of that, like learning and absorbing this pan-Indianism, you start to set really unrealistic goals for yourself, and then you start to impose those goals on others, those beliefs on others, to where they become confused, and I think they start to instigate other confrontations in other ways with others, and I think it turns into sort of this like a frenzied culturalism. It moves and it doesn't know what to do or where to go or how to form itself, and nobody really has a way of knowing or a way of doing that's really concrete and positive, you know. Nobody really knows how to work with efficacy with this frenzied culturalism. You know, everybody's losing their minds about it, how to be indigenous and how to be native. I think I was why so serious, you know? But I think I was talking one time about similar things like this, and I had this old timer come up to me after, and I think it was at the Museum of the Rockies. I was giving a talk on diversity and creativity and the power of imagery. And I think after that, this elder, he came up to me and he said, "Stop trying to be indigenous and just be, be." And that line went a long way with me. And I'm trying to just be. And I'm trying to stop letting Facebook and Instagram, social media, all of these movements with these commonalities and in the words that they use, in the imagery that they use, you know, trying to not let that influence my work or my thoughts or my ideas or my philosophies. So I don't know, you know, I think it's that frenzied culturalism is another one of those demons of the West, if you feel me.
Yeah.
I think it hurts us in a lot of ways, and it makes us hurt each other. And then it pushes us away, you know, and it's part of that overcompensation that you guys were talking about. You know, I want to be more indigenous, more Indian, so I'm gonna do all these different things. You know, I'm just gonna keep painting Indians with headdresses because they sell, because I can make a living for my family, a viable living, right? Because I can put food on the table, I can take a week off to just go be on the land, you know, or go hunt, and is that right? Is that wrong? You know, is being a cultural profiteer in 2020, is that right or is it wrong? As artists, I think that's what we are in a lot of different ways, whether no matter which way you try to paint it, pun intended. I think even researchers and scientists, I think even people like that can be cultural profiteers because we all make a living off of this stuff, right? So I think I have questions. I don't think I have a lot of answers, but I think if you start asking questions, ultimately you'll come to a point where you weren't before. And I hope at least it's above that last point. So
well, hopefully that's what this podcast becomes. Is I don't think we have the answers to any of this stuff, you know, the truth. But I think I don't know of a lot of people who are willing to like publicly on a public forum admit like they don't know what they're doing, you know? And that's the truth. Like I thought I knew what I was doing when it came to research, when it came to, and the truth is like, man, like we have those same problems, you know, those same things are like, what comes first? The quality of research is based on the intent of the research, or is it just because it's a job and it can get me some money? And man, and I do know this. I've taken jobs before because I needed it. So I needed the money. So I was like, all right, I'll do this. And I noticed the quality's different, man. And it's just, that's just reality. I'm not so proud of it. It's not something I really want out there. But I notice like, as long as I stay as culturally connected as possible, the quality of work it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's not like grammatically good, or if it's not organizationally good, like the content is always good, and I'm always kind of proud of that. So maybe that's kind of the thing with art, is like, as long as you maintain your authentic connection to culture, it really doesn't matter what's next. The art's going to be there, the work's going to be good. And one thing about your work is, it seems that you're not afraid to kind of stretch your own artistic boundaries, so you're not just stuck in the like Indian woman and maiden paintings, like you're doing other stuff, like the thing you did for the cover of the Women and Warriors book. I guess it wasn't a painting, it was an actual thing. That I'm not an artist, I didn't completely like get it, but it was badass. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's all it is, man. That's all it is. It's like, is it cool? Yeah, man, it's cool. Don't overthink it. Like,
most definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the
everything have to have
espousement
a
of
message?
ideas, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times
Yeah.
we become espoused to our ideas, and we can't move past those, because that's what we expect of ourselves, and that's what's expected of us. Right. And we're not able to grow beyond that. We're not able to be complex human beings because we're stuck on things like Indian 101. And
Yeah.
I think if I think about cultural adaptation, cultural evolution as an organism, like you said earlier, Shandine, horses, right? Bows and arrows for the Crows, headdresses in the mid 1800s, right? And basketball, Buicks, cowboy hats, Christianity.
Yeah.
We make things our own and we move on, So
Yeah.
I don't know, it's that shield, the shield that I made for the cover of the Apsáalooke Women and Warriors, was inspired by stories I'd heard from my grandfather growing up. It was inspired by designs that I'd seen researching in books and archives, right? It was also inspired by Grant Pootel, who sang a song for me, and Aaron in the collections at the Field Museum, and who allowed me to use that recording in the creation of the shield. And it was also based off of some of these cultural rights that I carry. But I think I have questions around how we create things, whether you're an artist or an educator or somewhere in between. I have questions about how you create things as a cultural individual, because I've had dreams of artworks where I got up and I made that actual piece. I saw it in a dream and I woke up and I did it. Now, I think in technical sense, I think that's called prophetic art, right? And is that different than something where somebody goes without water, for a period of time? Is that different? It obviously definitely has a different context because, I drive a brand new Ford pickup truck. I have an iPhone, one of the most powerful tools in the world. I live in Billings, Montana. I'm wearing Nike shoes, but we evolve and we change, and do my dreams, do I put more value on them or less value on them than the dreams of my grandmothers and grandfathers? And do you put more value on your dreams or less than those people we come from?
Well, I think we tend to probably put less, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
those people were humans, right? We tend to deify those people, don't we?
Yeah.
Right? They laughed. They had anger issues, they to be honest, they're human
they're
beings.
actually the cause. They're the cause of all of our dysfunction.
Damn you guys.
I always seen that there's a Wanamaker film out there, Rodman Wanamaker, who came to Montana to film a lot of tribes. He films Medicine Crow, white man runs him, and I think it's Harry Moccasin. They're smoking a pipe. Yeah, and he hits it. Do you see it when he hits it? He hits the pipe bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of them smoking the pipe, and he like, it's real fast. He goes, boom, he hits the pipe bowl, and then they all kind of laugh, you know. But when I first seen that, I was like, whoa. First, I thought it was staged because my brain was trained to think like, man, they're smoking a pipe. Shut up, you know. Put your head down.
Take your
And
hat
plus,
off.
everything back then was staged if it was being photographed, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so
Obviously.
then I thought they wouldn't even know, like, the film was so new that they don't have the concept of like, oh, people are gonna see this and laugh. I'm gonna make people laugh, or you know, like this. It was just like an instinct. It was, you just wanted to tease him, and he did it, man.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. So then I thought, like, these are real. That was like one of the first times I thought these are real people, man. We think of them as something else, but these are real dudes, and they're just funny, and they're crazy. They have flaws. They talk smack, and they steal each other's wives, and
Right.
they have issues, you know.
Yeah.
Good and bad. They have issues, which
Right,
over
to be
time made
honest,
me admire these people more, you know.
Yeah.
True. We admire them, and like I said, even to a crux, you know, to where we deify them and we romanticize them, and then we want to be like them, you know, because in my paintings, in my art shows, I'm pigeonholed, and the question always becomes, what came first, right? The pigeon or the egg? I'm put into these boxes where a lot of times it's almost impossible to get out. And then you're stuck painting the same thing for decades and decades.
Did you just say the pigeon or the egg?
That's right.
I never heard that before. What came first?
I just came up with it.
Dang, look at you, Ben. You're on fire. What came first, the pigeon or the egg? It still works because it's a bird, man.
It lays eggs.
I'm on fire. You got some hot rocks?
You could say platypus.
I know, yeah.
Platypus or an egg.
Are you talking about monotremes now?
Yeah.
Don't bring monotremes into this.
Yeah.
They're like the unicorns of the world. Come on.
It used to be so simple, you know, in the 80s. All you had to do is just wear a Pendleton vest, and you were Indian, man. You got it. Now it's so complicated. Talking about, you know.
Pendleton vest and a Budweiser.
I know it's weird because then if you dress Indian, then you're like, are you Indian? Then if you don't dress that way, then people question you.
If you dress more Indian, you feel more Indian. Then you talk more Indian, you act more Indian. I think it all comes with the image, you know. If I wear a res hat plus feather plus Pendleton vest to an art show, I might sing a song.
Someone's getting a name. Someone is getting a name.
Give a name away. You know, you had to do an experiment.
You get a name.
Yeah,
we should do an experiment. You know,
raffle.
Yeah.
How Indian is that? That's like Indian people love raffles. Board, you do a board, split the pot. You know,
or like an Indian starter pack with like those braids you wear. If you don't have braids to start with to dance, you wear fake braids that are acrylic hair or something.
Yeah.
Indian starter pack braids, res hat, turkey feather, you know, what else? Belt buckle, Wranglers, tight Wranglers.
So when I think of an Indian man, like honestly, in my brain, it's like a conflict because I have like the movie version, and then I have what my upbringing was, which was typically a pearl snap Western shirt with those polyester Wrangler pants.
Yeah.
Remember those polyester Wrangler pants?
And the crease down the front, all those old timers.
Yeah,
down the front.
Blades, man, blades.
Like a taco.
Sharp.
Tight pattern. Tight.
Talking about
so this is what I want to see. This is what I want to see, because I want to see how much your own image affects what you create. You got to do this. You got to dress up all fancy one day, you know, the res hat, the beadwork, and paint something. See what comes out.
One first.
Yeah. And then move up to the 80s where there's no beadwork. It's just Pendleton.
It's just Pendleton. It's just ribbon shirts.
Yeah, just ribbon shirts.
With like an angle pin.
About
Oh, yeah.
mid-90s, ribbon shirt and FUBUs and
Jinkos.
white Nikes, black Nikes.
Yeah.
Jinkos.
Jinkos.
Some Jankos.
You had some
See what comes
Jinkos,
out.
huh?
See what comes out.
I'll do that.
I want to
So
see that.
Performative.
But yeah, there you go.
1997, what the Crow Kid was wearing was silver tab jeans,
Yeah.
Ooh.
a white t-shirt, and Aspen cologne. Crows, that was
Are
like
you
a
talking
thing.
about yourself, Aaron?
Dude, crows
I think
loved
he is.
Aspen. Well, there used to be a store in the mall called Jeans West.
Oh yeah.
And like you could walk in the mall and there'd be 30 Crow high school kids in there buying silver tabs. Doc
I was
Martin.
only 8 years old, okay?
In 97? When were
I was
you
born
born?
in 89.
God.
Actually, we never did do an introduction. I'm Ben Pease. I'm an artist. I do paintings and stuff. I was born 1989. I'm a Big Lodge, child of Big Lodge. Crow and Cheyenne, so I'm a walking contradiction. You know, kind of like those Starbursts that have two flavors.
That's messed up. That's just, why did they even do that?
Two flavors in a Starburst.
This is yeah.
So
Cool.
Ben, you grew up in Lodgegrass though, right?
I grew up in Lodgegrass. I grew up in Billings, Hardin, Phoenix. Yeah, graduated high school from Hardin.
A lot of that was because your mother was an educator?
Yeah, educator, and then she worked in museum studies for a while.
Yeah, and her herself was an artist for a while.
That's right. She was.
And has recently kind of kicked back into it.
That's really one of the biggest inspirations in my work in my life is the creativity and the artistry within my own family. Beginning with my mother, my grandfather, and my great grandfather. And he was a Ben Pease senior, and he was known for, at the time, to support his habits, to support his addictions and gambling and alcohol, right? He made these things. He made things.
Yeah,
he
there's
made,
Ben Pease stuff all over the place.
Traveling sticks. He's in more museums than I am. Damn him. Yeah, I'm just kidding. He made drums. He made parfleche bags that didn't open. He made rattles. He made coup sticks.
Oh yeah.
But at the time, he was concerned with supporting his family and his habits. My mom and my aunt Janine, Linda and Janine, they both at times they sat with him at his booth and they actually sold most of his stuff. Here, you girls sit here and sell this. I'm gonna go over here and talk with these men. And so he'd be in this man talking circle over here while his granddaughters were selling his items, right? And because of that, he made good friends with some of those really well-known collectors of the time, of the early to mid 1900s, right? And but he was in his time is considered an artifaker, right? Not really making artifacts, right?
Yeah,
making things for market, right?
Well,
influenced by market.
And that's, I mean, that could be true, but that also could just be an opinion of what's going on. But I run across a cool interview with Roger Stops, and this guy's interviewing him about medicine bundles, and man, he wants a medicine bundle bad to purchase. So he says, Roger Stops says, well, just go to Ben Pease. He'll make you one. That guy can make anything.
Thank you for that plug.
Yeah.
Appreciate the plug. Shameless plug. But so my grandpa, he made good drinking buddies with Paul Dyke. He was over there almost every week drinking with him, and Paul Dyke would pay him in alcohol a lot of times. And so that Dyke collection came up with a lot of these items for my grandpa. But so since then, my grandpa Ben Pease Jr., he went to art school, and he was a potter and a painter and a drawer and a maker of cultural items. He made all of our dance stuff, you know, he made all of our ceremonial stuff. And then my mom, she went to art school, and she got her undergraduates in studio arts. And then she was an art teacher for some time, and now she's getting back into painting and drawing, and she's trying to, after her retirement, move back into being an artist, you know. And what does that mean today? You know, making paintings, making drawings, spoken word. I don't know what it means, but that's what it is.
Long line of art. And Ben has one of the coolest Indian names I ever heard.
Yeah?
Yeah, man. It's cool.
Well, what is it?
Tell him.
Well, my name, I think it originates from Alex Boutel, and it was given to my grandfather, which it was then given to me. And as far as I know, it's pronounced Apsáalooke, and it somewhat translates pretty loosely to takes the guns from both sides, or what I heard it was steals the guns from both enemy camps. But I've tried to translate it. In the meantime, I've been asking really what it means, but so that's where it is. And I see my work sort of existing in two worlds, you know, I'm somewhere in between. Because I go to these art shows and I'm pigeonholed. They expect me to paint Indians on horses, right, in their natural habitat as the token Indian artist at most of these events. You know, they ask me for my opinion, you know, and a lot of times because of that, maybe I do think I'm a mystic warrior of the plains, you know. Maybe I do. Who knows?
One of these days, though, Ben Pease is going to have a painting of a Crow kid, the stereotypical Crow kid at 9-10 years old on a bike. And to me, that's going to be like that, because that's every Crow kid, you know, that's every Indian kid.
Echelon.
Yeah. It's like, man, that freedom of just being on a bike.
Yeah.
Hey, don't predict my artwork.
I'm just unethical. I'm just trying to influence, man. I'm trying to influence.
You could also commission, you know, I work as a self-employed artist, you know, and I'm taking commissions. My list is open at the moment.
I can't.
My website, you can find it at www.benpeasevisions.com, and hit me up if you're really interested, Aaron. I'll make you a good deal.
There you go. Make a good deal on that medicine bundle.
What I'll do is I'll commission a badass piece of art. I'll take a picture of it, and then you can sell it.
Oh, all right.
I can't afford Ben Pease.
I can't even afford myself.
I know. Yeah, you literally outdone yourself. Well, I think that's a lot. That's a long podcast.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. There's a lot, there's a lot we could follow up on too, and maybe we'll process some of these details, and maybe down the road we'll hit you back up, and after you get Aaron's artwork finished and that performative artwork that we suggested, get all those things done, and in all your spare time.
We got to collaborate though, because you guys as researchers, you guys have facts and I just have opinions. But then today, facts are few and far between.
Yeah.
So let's collab.
This is the thing. Yeah, this is the future. I think, is representing our own way of researching, and I think expression of that in some sort of art form is pretty important. We've talked about it in the form of songs and singing, but I think we also see it in the things that we create. So yeah, we ought to chat more, and Aaron and I both have individual things we're working on, and we got ideas, and let's get it out there, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Because I think that's the art. I think that's the art that's for Indians. It don't pay the bills, It don't pay the bills probably. But man, I think if it can truly represent how we think and feel, man, that's powerful. And I think
most definitely those are one of the freedoms that I found just recently is not making work for the market. That's a freedom, and that's kind of like a superpower of invisibility.
Yeah.
Making work for our people, making work for myself, my family, the people in our communities.
Yeah. It's
a superpower that not a lot of Native artists or researchers or educators have.
Yeah.
Because we're so influenced by those impositions. So, hey, you said it's a long podcast. Joe Rogan does sometimes. He does 5 hours.
Well, no, I'm only saying that because you asked how long. Yesterday you texted me and you said, well, how long? Like I said, you want to be on the podcast? You're like, how long? I said, maybe like an hour. Like
maybe like an hour.
You're like,
I started feeling in the wind around here, like we're closing up, like some birds out here came and told me.
Yeah.
No. I'm not saying that.
Aaron's looking at his phone.
I'm just.
What did you say?
Your message, your text message implied that you had better things to do. So,
well, that might be true, but
I didn't want to impose on you. You know, I didn't want to do that. So as an apology, I'll go ahead and I'll sing you a song.
Oh, here it comes. Take your hat off, man. No, we don't do that. Get it. He's not.
King Rope Suave. Just to make this public information, Aaron's nickname, and it's been a running nickname for almost 2 years now, is King Ropes Suave. And I think that he should be a poster child, a poster boy for the company itself. They should feature him on their Instagram because he's definitely a figurehead.
King Ropes Suave. He has many colors of that hat. And I don't know if that was deliberate or those were birthday gifts. There's one. Was that a denim? There's blue. A navy. That's a navy.
Well, to me, King Ropes is one of the highest forms of Apsáalooke expressions that you can wear. You know, that's what I see everybody wearing. To be honest, it is.
One time I went in there. I went into King Ropes, King Saddlery in Sheridan, and I asked that lady. I said, "Why do you think Indian people like these hats so much?" And man, she didn't want to answer me. She's like, I don't think it's just limited. I was like, come on, it's not racist to say that because there does seem to be, because you go to Standoff, Alberta, you go to Browning, like they're everywhere, you know, Crow, Cheyenne, Fort Washakie.
Yeah.
So for me, really what it came down to was I was born in Sheridan. I started wearing the hat because I was born in Sheridan. Then what ended up happening was that the hat is made out of foam and a plastic net. So it's real light.
And your head stays dry and cool.
Yeah, man. So then
it's functional.
I used to wear regular ball caps, but they're too heavy and they push on my temple. You know?
They give you a hat hair?
Yeah.
Hat hair.
These King Ropes hats, man, it's like air on your head, man.
Plus, they have a nice form to them. They have a really nice shape. And to be honest, I think it's part of your brand.
We need to get a sponsorship.
Dang, man.
King Rope sponsorship.
So we're downtown Chicago, right? Me and Ben are gonna go get something to eat.
Okay.
I'm waiting for him on the corner.
All right.
And I'm like looking around, I'm like, where the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
And then here he comes, and then he just yells, King Rope Suave. It's been a thing. So Ben worked on that Apsáalooke Women and Warriors exhibition in Chicago. But to me, the funnest part of the whole experience was he spent about 3 hours in a hotel with a guy named Grant Boutel, who recently passed away from COVID.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's 80 years old. And it was cool, man. It was like, it seemed to me like all these trips to Chicago were like pageantry. People were always like hosting us, showing off their food. So that moment, that 3 hour moment was kind of like, here's just basically 3 Crow people, different generations. And he just relaxed, man. He just relaxed and he just told us stories and
let it
go.
Cool.
It was like one of those moments that you see in movies that you don't really think actually happen in the real world. And then it actually happens. And then you're like sitting there and it's surreal. And then you look back and it's even more surreal. You know, it's just one of those gifts.
It was weird because, I mean, we're literally downtown Chicago. Like downtown Chicago. And here we are in this hotel when we could have been partying and we could have been doing whatever. We're hanging out with this old dude and he's telling us like, I mean, he's telling Indian stuff, but he's also talking about his time in the service, his time rodeo with rodeos and his time in Vietnam for sure. And it was just like chill, man. And he's eating wings, right? Wasn't it wings?
Yeah, it was. Hot wings.
Yeah, he's just eating these wings and he's sitting on his bed.
Yeah.
So we're sitting in the chairs, and I kept thinking, like, I even asked him, "You want to sit here?" He's like, "No." So he's literally 80 years old with his legs hanging off of his bed, eating wings, telling us stories, and it's like we're having a slumber party with the leader of the Tobacco Society.
The lodge keeper of Tobacco Society.
Slumber party.
Sleepover. We had our PJs on. But honestly, one of the first things that he said to us when we first walked up to him, he said, "What are you guys doing? I thought you young bucks would be out trying to paint the town red," he said.
Oh, that's right. We're like, "No,
you want to come with us?"
Yeah. It's like, "No, we actually came to talk to you, you know." So to me, it was one of the only times during all of my time in Chicago, it was like, it was just chill. It was real. It wasn't like putting on a show.
There's nowhere to be, you know.
And then at the end of it, because I recorded it, and at the end of it, I said, "Ben, you got any questions?" And then Ben goes, "Lots."
Didn't ask any.
Yeah, he didn't ask.
Didn't ask any.
Lots.
It was. I honestly, I was one of those times where you feel like it's almost not your place because he's going to share what he's going to share, and I didn't feel like asking him to go outside of his thoughts. You know, it was just, for me, it was a gift to be there. And that's why I didn't say anything, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what happened, and it was good. It was definitely a cherished moment for both of us. I can safely say.
Well, it felt good for me because I was mourning the loss of Kobe Bryant, and that happened 2 days before or something.
2 days. Yeah, we talked about it on the way to the room. I think you teared up.
Was he tearing up?
Dude, man, Kobe was my guy.
Yeah,
getting a little.
He had the
misty
Iron Eyes Cody tear. No, not misty, just the one single, all the way down his neck.
It was the wind. All right, we just came from outside. It was the wind.
Pointer finger there.
And it was that one. Dang.
That hit you hard.
2020, a bust, man. A bust.
Erase it.
No, I say no, because there's been a lot of beautiful things that happened in 2020.
Oh, don't be that guy.
You know,
don't be that guy.
I'm gonna yeah. It is, you know, yeah. It's just part of the natural process of things. We needed a reset on some things.
It's okay to grieve, though, too. It's okay to grieve a year. This year sucked. All right,
maybe 2020 was grieving 2019. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's
look at 2019. What happened in 2019?
Let's just wear black.
2020.
Let's just wear black. Let's just stay home.
Yeah.
Come out recharged in 21.
Like some hotels don't have a 13th floor.
Yeah,
they don't even have it.
Everyone knows what the 14th floor is. No, we know what you are.
No, it's been a pretty good year, I think, you know, despite all the loss, you know, I think
there was a pretty monumental event that happened in your life that wasn't particularly positive.
I think
it was. That, Shandy?
I think it was. You know, I transitioned into a new career, and I think I needed it.
Congratulations.
I feel untethered.
Yeah,
I feel valued in the things.
You know, the truth is there are times where it's like you're not gonna leave. You want to leave. You kind of need that, like, and they just cut you loose, and you're like, oh, that ended up being probably the best thing to happen to you in a long time, you know?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And as you know, I resigned.
Yeah.
My last day is next Wednesday. I'm now the Crow Tribal Preservation Officer.
Yes.
And so
congratulations there.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of work, but I think I needed that. I needed something challenge.
Yeah. For me, it was, you know, putting the creativity and work that we did and that we're doing into something that's gonna really make a change, you know. Because if you just, it's just like, you know, painting stereotypical stuff, you know, it doesn't have a whole lot of purpose. And that the kind of work I was doing was.
Well, he said it already. He said he went through that stage where he's just doing Indian guy in the war bonnet.
Yeah.
Indian guy in the war bonnet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's gonna lose. That loses it's like there's no meaning. It's not meaningful anymore. You know, even though they're cool, they're probably high quality, but at the end of the day, you're like, sometimes Indian guys don't have war bonnets.
That's right. Yeah. And I think in my case, it's just a mismatch of vision, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This
Was
the folks. It is complete mismatch. So we're gonna do good.
unequally yoked.
Unequally yoked.
To borrow a phrase from my Pentecostal friends, unequally yoked.
Is that in reference to towing a wagon or
No, like an egg yolk.
oxen? Oh, oxen plow.
The only time I've actually heard it is when egg yolk. when they'll say a married couple, like one person is like goes to church and is of God and the other one is not, then they'll say they're unequally yoked.
Yeah.
But really, I think what it is two visions. It's two different directions, different page, different thing. This podcast has been an awesome way to like always kind of rewrite the ship every time.
Yeah.
Got like weird thoughts and these things, and we use the podcast it's almost therapeutic. So, and even this session with Ben has been, it seemed like he used it as therapy a little bit. He was kind of like, you was throwing some stuff out there that you probably don't get to talk about very often, or maybe you do. I don't know.
I get to think about it a lot. I talk a lot to my paintings just because it's quite literally a sounding board, you know. If nothing else, the sound literally bounces off of them. Like I said, it's a lonely place here.
Where you at now? Tell the listeners where you're at right now.
Well, listeners, I'm here sitting in my office chair, black, swivel, mesh,
netted.
so I don't sweat, netted. Sitting.
Not a gamer chair though.
Not a gamer chair. It's definitely an ergonomic business chair though. In the bowels, I'm sitting within the bowels of Rocky Mountain College. Technically, I'm working under an artist residency, which is shifting into a fellowship that I'll build when I leave.
Oh.
And so I'm building this fellowship for Native artists across the country. It's not a big fellowship. I think it's going to be close to $19,000 for any creative individuals, whether you're a researcher or songwriter or playwright or a painter, photographer, what be it, so that they can come and learn within the community of Rocky. But so at the same time, you know, I'm creating my work here, but like you said, I don't have an umbilical cord. You know, I just have a space. You know, I don't have a tether which controls my work and restricts it, unfortunately, and fortunately in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because I've always wondered about how institutions control the information that their researchers and their professors, instructors, that they accumulate. You know,
thing, man. That's a whole thing.
Is it?
Yeah. You write a thesis, say for the University of Montana, they own it. You know,
they own the intellectual property. Huh? So if I was to get my degree, say get a master's, and my thesis would be paintings, they would own the images, they would own the artwork.
I guess I don't know how art I think if you wrote a thesis on the history of Crow Indian art, they would own that under certain departments. Okay. I don't anything you create under that umbrella, they own it, and it goes into this database, some of which is open to the public, and some of it is not.
Right.
My thesis I made public. A lot of people didn't want me to at the university because they said it was proprietary information, but I felt like I didn't own the information, so people should be able to access it. So
I've always wondered about that stuff. I have about 8 to 9 years of college, but I don't have a degree at all. And
you're probably better for it.
Never finished because I got too busy, you know, with my career, my painting, traveling, and things like that. But I've always wondered about how these institutions and universities, how they categorize the property that they gain.
Well, it worked out for you, man. You made the right decision. Obviously, it's a lot of times it's not even a calculated risk. You just kind of go with the flow. But it seemed like you made the right decision because not only are you known, you're respected, but then you're also feeding your family, which has to be paramount to any work you do. I think people forget that. It's like, we could talk all this stuff in theory, but at the end of the day, I still got to feed my kids, you know?
Right.
So
I still got to be able to buy gas to get out to the hills to shoot a deer, you know.
Even
and,
that, yeah.
Bring it back home and put it on the table, you know. You need knives to cut that thing, you know.
And sharpeners for those knives.
Oh, sharpeners too.
Sharpeners too. Yeah.
need to buy
we're in the
freezer tape.
We're in the weeds.
Sheath. Freezer tape. Sheath. Freezer tape.
Oh, no.
But definitely it is a source of like celebration to realize that I can make a living and not do so bad at it, you know, because a lot of my artist friends are kind of in a hard way, you know, even if they are pretty respectively well known, it's not easy, you know, to pay rent, to pay cell phone bill, because you never know when the next painting is going to sell. You never know when another check is going to come from a gallery or a museum. You quite literally are living paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes you're living, you know, sometimes you're balling. It's either feast or famine, it seems like a lot of times. And lucky enough, I haven't experienced the other part of it for a few months now. So I'll count my blessings and cross my fingers and my toes.
That's a short time scale, but still got to be thankful. I thought you were going to say years, but you said months.
Yeah, Ben's doing pretty good, guys. He's 2 months.
In full transparency, like a painting like this will sell for about $10,000. And whether I have a representative sell it or a gallery sell it, they'll take half, $5,000.
Wow.
But then you've got business fees like website fees, domain fees. You know, you've got shipping and handling. You've got gas, transportation, framing, conservation. You've got materials and supplies.
Yeah.
Spotify, you know.
God, Spotify. You need Spotify. Any creative person who doesn't have Spotify, I don't know how you do it. I envy you.
Yeah, I don't know how you live. Yeah.
So what's left of that $10,000 is minuscule, you know, minute.
Yeah.
It almost seems like there's never enough, but then hey, I feel like I never have enough, so I'm out buying shoes, you know, out putting a big grill on my truck, you know, out buying another gun, and I don't need all that stuff. I could live in a tent by the river.
Yeah.
Sing me a song. This is a research podcast, though, right? Sorry.
That's the same stuff.
We're doing it. This is real.
This is personal information.
This is the real tribal research. This is the real deal.
Woke. This is woke.
Yeah, we're woke. We're all woke here. Hashtag woke.
We're woke AF.
I think we've woke. I think whoever's sticking around this long to listen, I hope they're woke. And man. Let's wrap her up.
Live listeners?
No, we're not there yet. I do have a Patreon site out there, and if we reach the goal of $150 in Patreon, we will do a monthly live show. Right now we're up to I think $30.
Yeah.
I implore you.
I think one of the Patreon supporters is my sister.
Yeah, 25 of which is Aaron's sister.
Thank you, Luella.
Yeah.
You're awesome.
Thank
and I'm sure
Luella.
at some point we're going to have you on the podcast at some point.
Yeah, thanks, Luella. Thanks, Emma, for your contributions. So, 150 live show.
Everyone. Thank you, guys.
Show.
Thank you, Ben.
So let's wrap her up. Yeah.
Go follow him on Instagram.
For sure.
Facebook, go to his website.
You can find my website at benpeasevisions.com. You can follow my work on Instagram and Facebook at Ben Pease Visions. And I just had an article published in the Mountain Living magazine, their annual Home of the Year edition. So it is what it is. It's titled Braids on the Inside. So give that a read and show some love, please.
Yes.
We'll put those details in the show notes too, so people can link on that. So we'll connect up and we'll get those details out there. All right, partner. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time. And then, like I said, we'll get back in touch, man. And we're going to follow up. There's some good details you gave us, some things that I want to explore more. Yeah.
We just scratched the surface here. We didn't really figure anything out. We just have a lot of opinions here.
Yeah, a lot of BS.
That's all I have.
Here.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
But I'm happy
all
for
right,
it.
partner.
I'm glad for it.
All right. Thank you for joining us on this episode. And if you want to learn more about what we're up to, go ahead and search Tribal Research Specialists in Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, and check out our other sites. And if you want to contribute to the show, go ahead and look us up on Patreon. We would appreciate your donation.